This is Paul Schneiderman today on the 129th edition of the Sports Untold podcast, also on Rainier Avenue Radio based in Seattle. And my special guest today is NBA legend Bill Cartwright. Bill, real quickly, I see online that is your legal name James?
It's James William Cartwright. My father's name was James, and his father's name was William. So I ended up with James William. But I have 6 sisters, and they did not like me being called James or James Jr. So it's all them. They said Bill. There's 6 of them, so Bill.
So calling you Bill is okay then?
Absolutely. I had no decision in that.
Okay, want to make sure. Well, Bill, I'll get back to you in a minute. I want to mention I have a new assistant and producer, Olivia Coyne. Olivia's I've known her family for a long time, and Olivia is doing a great job. And my podcast is now also on Spotify, YouTube, Google, iTunes, Podbean. You can go to sportsuntoldpodcast.net. Just trying to work on getting things going even more here. Feel free to click on the like button, and you can check out my show on some of the outlets I mentioned. Well, Bill, let me get back to you. Mr. Cartwright had a very distinguished NBA career. He played for the Knicks, the Bulls, and played for the Sonics for a short time. A University of San Francisco graduate, member of their Hall of Fame. Bill's been a coach in the NBA. He's been a head coach and assistant. He's also coached in, I believe, Japan and Mexico. Bill, I really appreciate you coming on today. Our mutual friend, Bill Hogan. Bill's a good friend, and I got to know Bill as the Seattle U athletic director, and he's now he's been on my show before. He was the USF athletic director, and Bill was the one who kindly got us connected. And I appreciate coming on the 129th edition of the Sports Untold podcast.
Yeah, I've always been really fortunate, and even growing up, I grew up in a really small town. Actually, no town. It was probably 15 miles south of Franklin. We know you don't know where that is, but that's where I went to grammar school, and my dad was a farm laborer, and ended up going to Little Elk Grove High School, and that's what I really learned to play, work. You grew up on a ranch, you had to work really hard, and fortunately, when I was 13 years old, we ended up moving into South Sacramento, and I discovered people, and I could ride my bike, I could go to the park, and there was a 7-Eleven. So it was either play sports or go to work. So I ended up playing a lot of sports: baseball, basketball, football. Baseball was my favorite. I was a pitcher, if you can imagine. So really loved it. And I had a pretty challenging high school coach in basketball. So I ended up playing a ton of basketball, scarily. I really liked it. To be able to play basketball pretty much 6.5 days a week throughout my high school career, and was very fortunate. We had great teams. My team, when I was a junior, we were 30-0 that year, and my team, when I was a senior, we ended up winning the Northern California Championship. So I just learned a lot of great lessons about how to work, about what winning's all about. If somebody tells you you can't win them all, you tell them, I don't think it's accurate, because I think in my junior year, we did win them all. So you just learn a lot of great lessons about work and about humility, because there's always somebody better. I was never really an athletic kid. I was kind of the guy that had to work more, do more, shoot more shots. And I was really, as I would say, really well rehearsed in my basketball game. So that's what it was all about. And then once I got to USF, that was another level of play. I had a great coach with Bob Gaylord. And Bob actually played at USF, was a really good player. And Played against guys. Kevin Rastani was an NBA player. Eric Fernston, who ended up being one of my teammates in New York, and played against Phil Smith. And Phil went to USF and ended up playing for the Warriors starter. That's when they won a championship back in '75. So just to meet those guys and play against them and play against guys from Oakland like Howard Smith, who was a beast of a guy. He was pretty much my mentor. He was about 6'9", big burly kid, and basically beat me up every day. And I really learned a lot from him. So it was just a great. I just been really fortunate throughout my entire career being able to play. Have great guys to learn from, great coaches to learn from, other players to learn from. And that kind of propelled me into the NBA.
You know, I was going to ask you, Bill, you did a great job giving more about your background, about kind of how you got the basketball bug. But one thing we just learned is baseball was your favorite sport, though, growing up, right?
Yeah, I had these great visions of playing baseball, and I could throw really hard, fastball, curveball. And of course, I was really well rehearsed because I was a psycho athlete because I wanted to play all the time. And, I could hit, and it was more out of the fact that I practiced more and played more than anything else. I'm not sure I had more talent. But then, miraculously, I wasn't pitching this day, but I was playing first. And this guy, I still remember, he ended up going to high school with him. This guy, Dennis Forenza, who ended up playing semi-pro baseball. He was a lefty. He hit a home run to right field.
Wow.
And I turned around and I watched it. And I was thinking at that moment, there is no way in hell I can hit a ball that far. Yep, looks like basketball for me.
Gotcha. Bill, I got a fun little factoid for you. Feel free to challenge me on this. I believe you're the second tallest person ever be on my show. My old friend James Donaldson's been on my show, and he's listed 7'2", and you're listed 7'1". Is James a little taller than you, Bill?
James is taller.
Okay.
I always say I'm about 7 foot. I actually played. I don't know if James told you, but James and I actually played. James from Sacramento.
That's right.
And he and I were in the same conference. So, and James is exactly my age. So we played against each other in high school, and he was a beast. Now, by saying that, he was really raw, but he was big. He was well over 300 pounds. So we were pretty much scared to death of him. So
he's a big teddy bear deep down, though. So.
Yeah, no, he's a phenomenal guy. We got to know each other, and I've spoken with him, as a matter of fact, this last year.
Oh, good. Good.
So yeah, he is taller than me, and he's one of the first guys who, now I can't do this. He can touch the rim like on his tippy toes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Wow.
I can't do that. So
that's incredible. Fun. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of your guys' specific connections there, but I just thought I'd have fun and confirm that James has you by 1.5 inches or so. But that's fun. Bill, you have a real tie to University of San Francisco. I believe you work there on their. I don't know if I'm defining it right. I think you remember their faculty, but why don't you just tell us about your ties to University of San Francisco? Maybe a couple good memories you had playing there, one or two that maybe stand out. I'm sure you have more, but just tell us about your ties to the institution, a couple memories that stand out when you played there.
Well, I think the big thing is that when we were there, I had great teams. When I was a sophomore, with the number one team in the country most of the year. I had great teammates. I had played with guys who went to the NBA with me. James Hardy, Wilfred Boyens, Marlon Redmond, Chubby Cox. So we had really good teams. After I left school, I had always had really stayed connected with the school, whether it was to the president, at that time it was Father Loscavo, and then later on it would be Father Paul Fitzgerald, who's a amazing leader, amazing person. And so when I got done playing in my career, I ended up going to New York, Chicago, Phoenix, came all the way back. I ended up, I wanted to be a businessman. So out of all of my genius, I decided, hey, look, I had investigated all these things. So now the business I wanted to do, I wanted to be a McDonald's owner. So I was going to McDonald's U. And then at that point in time, the GM from the Bulls called me up. Jerry Krause asked me if I wanted to coach. And originally, I was thinking, nah. But then after a while, I came all the way back, and he basically talked me into coaching. And so I ended up coaching the Bulls, Nets, Phoenix. So I ended up really coaching. I played for 16 years, and I ended up coaching for 16 years. So after coming all the way back from that, and my Japanese experience and my experience in Mexico, I ended up all the way back at USF and kind of being able to get back. So I really work in development, and what's that? Development is fundraising. But I'm director of initiatives, and that really entitles me to be connected to every single program and being able to be active in anything that could be useful. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of alumni connecting. I've been able to be back to school. You forget how much energy the young people have, and it kind of gives you some juice, some power. You kind of feel pretty good when you're walking around campus because people are alive. They have energy, thought. They have some different thoughts, but they have some thoughts.
There you go. Well, USF's a great school. It's great. I'm sure the institution feels so fortunate having you back there. Bill, you played for the New York Knicks for many years, and why don't you share with us your first NBA game? What was it like?
My first NBA game, I remember it exactly. I think we played Philly. I played against Darryl Dawkins, and I can remember him coming over to me and looking right at me, and he said, "Don't worry about me. I'm not that tough." And I thought about that for a second, and I thought, do I really look that scared? But it was great. It was great. I played against him, and Dr. J was on the floor. And one of my most memorable things about that game is that I think I actually blocked Doc's shot. So I was like, wow. I was pretty impressed with myself that I blocked his shot. So
Wow.
I'm not sure we won the game, but it didn't matter. It was my first game, so I was really excited.
I love the Darryl Dawkins part of that story of your first game. That's fun. That's fun. Bill, you play in the Big Apple, New York City. Was it hard being a young guy playing in a big market? Do you think it's easier for players to play maybe in smaller markets when they start their careers? Tell me about that a little bit.
For me, I wasn't really focused on that because I was such a basketball junkie that I don't really care where I play. New York was fun for me. When we first moved there, we lived in really West New York, which is right across the Hudson. So we lived in Jersey. And then later on, we ended up moving. My wife and I moved back, moved into the city. 83rd and 2nd, and it was just a new world, man. You had theater, you had all these great places to eat. You had the Garden, you had the Yankees, you had the Mets, you had everything. So you're in your early 20s. You got a lot of juice. You can do a lot of different things, and And plus you're playing basketball. And think about this, my first coach was Red Holtzman. So, a lot of lessons learned from Red. And, now my teammate is, I got Earl Monroe as a teammate. I've got Marvin Webster, the human eraser. He's my teammate. Guys like Joe C. Merriweather and Mike Glenn, who, those kind of guys. And we had some crazy guys too. We have Michael Ray Richardson, who, as you know, Sugar can get a little crazy. And Ray Williams, who's probably one of the most athletic guys I ever played with, along with Toby Knight, who was one of the first big small forwards, like 6'9" small forward ever in basketball. And my younger teammates were Larry Demick from Arizona and Hollis Copeland from Rutgers and Jeff Houston from Texas Tech. And then we had, of course, Sly Williams, who's, Sly was quite the character, but everybody loved that dude. So it was fun. We were young. It was fun. There was no fear. What do you be worried about? We're playing basketball for a living.
You mentioned Marvin Webster. I remember him in Seattle. He was on that '78 Seattle team that went to the championship. Bill, I was going to ask you a specific question about playing for the late Red Holtzman, Hall of Fame coach. What were some lessons you learned from Red?
Red just wanted you to play. He just wanted you to play, and his thing was men should be men. And we played at a time there wasn't a lot of you learn more by doing, especially that year because Marvin got hurt. So I was happy when he was there because he could kind of tell me what to do, especially offensively. I was fine. I'm going to score. Defensively, I couldn't guard anybody. So when Marvin was around, I couldn't guard anybody. But Red understood that. He was like, yeah, you got to learn by doing. You got to be able to look out at guys and find out what their games is. It wasn't back now where there was scouting reports. There was no film on games. You just played. So everything was pretty blue collar. Think about this. Everything was a commercial flight. So if you did any flying around, it was a commercial plane and you had to be the first bird out of town. If there's any back-to-back games, you're up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. It was just it was bare bones, and also there's no Ritz hotels either.
Right.
And I still remember. I think my per diem was like $15 a day.
Wow.
And we used to eat at Denny's, and I loved it because I think I love the Super Bird special at Denny's. It was awesome. So it was a bare bones league then. So it was fine.
I've been a Denny's guy over the years too. It's just really something when you guys played in the '70s and '80s. It was like you said, it was more of a blue collar era. Now these guys are treated more like kings, aren't they?
Oh, these guys get everything now. These guys have got practice facilities. They're I love going into practice and watching them. Their workout areas are beautiful. Weights, they got jacuzzi, they got pool, they got masseuses. And then, in the Bulls facility, they got a barbershop in there.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's crazy. We used to practice over at in Queens at LaGuardia Community College, and I can pretty much promise you, whatever temperature it was outside, that's the temperature it was inside.
Right. Bill, you played with the Knicks, I believe, for a couple of years with Bernard King, and some say Bernard King is one of the best players not in the Hall of Fame. Do you think Bernard King has a good Hall of Fame case?
No, I think Bernard is in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, he is in the Hall. Okay. My bad.
As he should be. Bernard was
my bad.
When we had him in New York, Bernard was he was just a really horrible matchup because he's like 6'6", 6'7", really strong. So if you put a smaller guy on him, he's just going to beat him up. If you put a bigger guy on him, he's just going to go around him. And he's really unorthodox. So he shoots the ball on the way up. He's a nightmare matchup. So I really enjoyed playing with him. I really learned a lot from preparation from this guy. He was one of the first guys in the league that would like go get massages, and he had his pregame drinks he used to drink. I'm not sure what was in them, but just to give him energy, and his focus was so amazing. So I learned a lot about him, just about preparation and mentally what you should do. So it was fun.
I guess if I could retro my question, I made a mistake that he is a Hall of Fame. I guess my question could have been, why is he underrated as a player, Bernard King? I guess maybe that'd be a better question.
I don't think he's underrated by the guys who played against him. You can't gauge anything about people now because people only know who they know. So I think the guys who played against Bernard, they understood how damn good that guy was. And then remember, after he was one of the few guys that had back-to-back 50-point games, and then after that, he tore his knee up, so he was basically done after that. So his career was really kind of cut short, and so I'm sure he would have scored another 10,000 points. Had he have stayed healthy, but he did get hurt in New York.
What was it like playing with Pat Ewing?
Patrick was great. It was. People ask me that because, of course, I was the starting center, and I get Patrick, and I can remember the first day of training camp. We were doing this drill, and I ended up running into Patrick and hit him in the lip and busted his lip. So Patrick had to go to the hospital and get his lip stitched up. And the next day, I call him over and say, "Hey, Patrick, look, we're both aggressive players. We're going to have some contact. The only thing we could do is just work with each other and try to take care of each other and learn from each other." And since that day, we've been really, really, really good friends, because after that, he says, "Good, I'm happy you told me that, because I thought you did that on purpose."
That's neat, Bill, how you made that reach out to him. It's just part of the game, nothing personal. So that was
but Patrick's a great, I can't emphasize that enough. He's a great guy, great person. And also here's another guy that he just worked his way in. But when we first got him, Patrick couldn't shoot. And throughout the course of his career, he made himself into a really, really, really good scorer, a really good shooter, Hall of Fame player. So all the credit to him.
Love it. Love hearing your personal experiences, some of these well-known NBA players. Bill, you played on, I believe, three. Do I have this right? Three Bulls championship teams?
Yeah.
91, 93. Make sure I have my facts right. I'm going to be careful. What was your favorite of those three Bulls championship teams?
Probably the first one. The first one was great because, I think I had been in the league like 11 years, and I had never been in a position to play for a championship. We ended up overcoming the dreaded Detroit Pistons. And then we ended up beating the Lakers and winning our first championship. But it was, it was quite a long road. And, once again, I was really very fortunate to be a part of a really special team. The GM at the time, Jerry Krause, evidently saw something in me and ended up trading for me, a very popular player, Charles Oakley. And I ended up being there. My first coach when I got there was Doug Collins, and then Phil Jackson took over. And after that, it took we lost the Pistons in both those years, and then after that, we just really kind of took off. So that first championship was definitely special. It was a long time coming. It was really hard, but a lot of perseverance.
Great teams. Bill, I got a question from the audience. Mike Gustafson's an attorney colleague, friend I know, and Mike wants to get your take on this. Mike believes the teams you were on, the first three-peat Bulls teams in the 90s, the 91 to 93 championship Bulls teams you were on, were actually better than the second three-peat Bulls teams from 96 to 98. What's your take? Which of those three-peat squads were better? Mike thinks the team you were on was better.
I have no idea. You know, and the reason I say that is because nobody knows. It's you know, you're always really optimistic. Everybody, if you're on a championship team and you ask somebody, could your team beat this other team? You're like, of course. Because at that team, at that point in time, we were playing the best basketball. We had the best team. We were the most versatile team in the league. So would we have beaten them? Yeah. Even though that team that did win the fourth championship, I think they set the NBA record for games won when they beat Seattle. So I think they make probably a pretty good case for winning that. But every single team that I played on was pretty damn good. They were pretty formidable and could play full court basketball and could play in a half court basketball. And then better yet, they could really guard your ass at the end of the game. So tough question, but that team that did win 70 plus games, I think that they probably make the strongest case.
I know those are difficult hypotheticals, you know, like which team would be better, but it's still a fun question. And hearing from you with your firsthand experience playing for the 91 to 93 championship teams, it's an interesting perspective. Yeah, that team went 72-10, I think, in 96, 95.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, they were good. Dennis Rodman is sure a character I remember on that team, you know. So
yeah, Dennis was and still is a character.
That's right. Another question I got from the audience, Phil, Jason Billingsley, big NBA fan. Jason was wondering, Bill, if your career, he thought that your talent never waned, but your needs became more trouble. Is that a good way to break it down? Is Jason onto something?
No, you know, I was really fortunate that, you know, I was able to play 16 years in the NBA. And besides my foot injury that put me out for like a year and a half, I never had any real significant injuries. So, you know, it was interesting when I got to the Bulls. I would be shut down. And that was more so guys like Will Perdue, Stacey King, Scott Williams could play more minutes. So when you look at what I was doing then, was that like at the end of the season, second half of the season, I didn't play a lot of games. That wasn't my choice. It was like, you know, Jerry Cross saying, Bill, hey, it's a good time. You take a little time off and get ready for the playoffs. So, and also it is kind of interesting too, is that when I came in the league, I was a scorer when I was with the Knicks, and that's what I did. So, but my role changed when I went to the Bulls. I go from being a scorer to a defender. It was like, Bill, we don't need for you to score. We got players scoring. We just need for you to guard. So, and that was part of it too. I would have loved to have the ball more, but that wasn't my job at the time. So, yeah. But my knees and everything, yeah, whatever it took to get the job done, that's what I kind of did.
The blue collar spirit, right? Yeah, yeah. Was Jordan the best you ever played with or against in the NBA? If you had to pick one,
I think that's a really hard question. Is he the best guy that I've ever played with? Yeah, that dude had a lot of talent, man. He's probably one of the first guys that I played against that couldn't be double teamed. He just split on, go right to the basket. But I never played against Wilt Chamberlain. I've never played against the young Dr. J. I hear a lot of stories about him, and I read a lot about him, where this guy was like unstoppable. So I didn't play against Kareem when he was young. I know he was just throwing up 30 points a game, so I never played to worry about Bill Russell. I know there was a lot of fear of that. So, but yeah, I can say as far as the guys in my generation, he's probably the the best talented basketball player, which that doesn't make you the best basketball player. I can tell you it was on my list, the best basketball players, and they're all big guys, as you would imagine. Surprise. And that's Bill Russell, that's Kareem, and that's Wilt. And that's basically because those guys did things that will never be done again. 11 championships, 15 years. You got a guy averaging 50 points. Guys averaging 50 points a game. 50. That's not going to happen. And then you got Kareem. Kareem's nobody did what that guy could do. College, NBA. So that's those are my three.
Love it, love it. By the way, Bill, you and the late Bill Russell also have a University of San Francisco tie. Did you know him very well, the late Bill Russell?
I did not know Bill well. I did. Was able to spend some time with him. He, of course, is phenomenal to me. Great guy, great person, always extraordinarily positive. I just wish I would have spent more time with him, just talking about the league and just some different things socially, just to get his thoughts that way. But was just never in a real position, at least to get him alone, one-on-one. But yeah, that dude's really, really special dude, not only for our school, for the league, who he represented, what he stood for. Just a really special person.
Very iconic figure during the civil rights era, and a very, very, very deep guy for sure.
Yeah. Very similar to actually Green was very similar to him in just being outspoken for people who could not speak for themselves. So when you talk about the greatest of all time, I think that you have to embrace more than basketball, because that's what sports is. It's more than a sport. It's one of the few things that people who are different, politically, religious wise, in every different way, you're different. You can still like the same basketball team, and it's or the same sport. It's really the only thing that really encompasses and brings everybody together.
For sure. Bill, this may be a good lead now with some of your feedback you have on Bill Russell and Kareem. And I've asked these two questions to every guest the last couple of years, and I get phenomenal answers. My first question is, who's a living sports figure you'd love to interview or spend time with? And who's a deceased sports figure in history you would love to have spent some time with or interviewed?
I like big guys. So I never, even though he was around, he was older. I never had a chance to spend time with George Mikan. And I would have liked to have had some of his thoughts that way. Uh, the interesting thing now is that the guys you're talking about now, um, I do have access to them. So I'm not sure if there's anybody really now, uh, because when I was in New York, I did get a chance to talk to Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, and you know, it was fun with different sports. I did chat with Howard Cosell, who called me Seth Cartwright instead of. I'm like, why are you calling me Seth? Oh, that's an old football player. And the reality is that he was, drinking it up a little bit.
Right,
So,
right, right.
um, I was fortunate that a lot of the um, Sacramento's a big baseball area. So a guy that I chat with during the summer is Dusty Baker, and that's a lot of fun because it's a lot of baseball history. So if I need to know something about a player or a guy, you just ask him. And I was fortunate enough to be able to spend time with. I was at an event in New York, so if you can imagine, I was in a room for 2 hours by myself with Willie Mays.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, so I grilled him. I grilled him in New York and playing in San Francisco, and just those kind of guys. And to be able to chat with Willie McCovey before he passed, and I'm a big Giants fan. Uh, it was just, and actually I had a chance to go in earlier when I was young to spend some time with Bobby Bonds, not Barry Bonds, Bobby Bonds, which was really cool. So
Is there somebody you mentioned as a deceased sports figure? I love the name George Mikan, and you maybe heard that story that I think Shaquille O'Neal helped pay for George's funeral. I think
yeah,
Shaq. It's a
yeah,
great story that Shaq did that. But I love the name George Mikan. No one had mentioned his name before on my show. Um, Willie Mays, who's still with us. I mean, these are just phenomenal names. Is there somebody though, maybe in sports management, maybe like an owner or a general manager, executive, you would find interesting to spend time with?
well, it's too late now, but and I should have at the time, but I was young, wasn't thinking because Pete Rozelle is a USF guy.
Oh, I didn't know
So,
that.
yeah, so if you can imagine, Pete, let's talk a little bit about how in the hell did that happen? How do you go from USF to having this great title in the NFL? I mean, you could have gotten everything you wanted from professional football with this guy.
It's a
And
great name, Pete Rozelle. You've been fascinating. Bill, you played, and I remember watching you. The 94-95 Sonics year was in the Tacoma Dome. It was kind of an odd year. And that was your final year in the NBA. Was that an odd year for you too? The Sonics were playing the Tacoma Dome, and it was your final year. Was that just kind of a strange year?
it was strange, and it was disappointing in the extent that we didn't get to play downtown, and also our team was really good. I was really disappointed in the fact that we played really well throughout the course of the season. Of course, we had Gary, Sean, we had Deadlift Shrimp, we had Nate McMillan. Uh, Man, we were good. We had Sam Perkins. Are you kidding me? We had a really good team. We had Shooters, Marcellonis, Kendall Gill, and we ended up getting beat in the first round by the Lakers. And so, um, but for me, I learned a great lesson uh, as a team because even though we were a good team, we never continued to grow throughout the course of the season. We played fewer players in the playoffs, which was contradictory to my time with the Bulls. So it was a good lesson for me. I love Seattle. Playing there was phenomenal. What a great city. What a, to be able to go out and eat, hang out, and do that kind of stuff was fun. And George Karl was my coach, and Terry Stotts was there, and we had a great coaching staff. So just a lot of great lessons, and it was fun. But after that, my career was done.
Well, Bill, you have some Sonics blood in you, and we embrace our late team. And by the way, do you feel pretty good that Seattle will get an NBA team back this decade? There's a lot of talk. Do you have any insights at all you can share?
I don't have any insights other than what the heck are they doing? They should have never lost them. Seattle's a great town, and they definitely deserve to have a basketball team. So hopefully they'll get one back, and um, and no disrespect to teams like OKC and Memphis, but I'd much rather be in Seattle than in either one of those two cities.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully, Bill, if we get a team back, you can be with some former players in the stands. I can see a celebration one day of hopefully that will happen. Bill, who's the toughest player you played against in the NBA? Someone that maybe not the greatest player, but gave you a hard time.
Well, as a player, I never viewed other players that way at all. Because think about it, like my first game, I'll get Darryl Dawkins. Then I got Bob Lanier rolling in. Then I got Dave Cowens. I got Artis Gilmore rolling in. And you know what? Then I got Wes Unseld coming in. So I couldn't view guys. They were all tough guys. And they knocked the dog tar out of you. So my thing is that I'm just coming. I'm just coming one direction. I'm not worried about you. You worry about me, and we're just going to play. So, because every team in the league had a center or centers who were a problem. Even if you went to Seattle, you got Alvin Adams, and then you got Dan Issel in Denver. And then you know what? You got Golden State. Now you got Clifford Ray. And then at that point in time, your backup was Robert Parrish. Believe me, he was very angry at that point in time when he came off the bench. So he was dying to play. And I still tell Robert the story about, when I was with him. You know what, Robert? You were the first guy to take a swing at me in the league. He said, "No, I wasn't." I'm like, "Yeah, you were. You came off the bench, and we had a little confrontation, and you took a swing at me." So it was every team had, it had somebody that was a problem.
Tough guys. Bill, tell us, has the center positions changed a bit in basketball in general, hasn't it, over the last so many years?
Yeah, there's basketball's changed, and it talks about there's no real center position. Well, there's no point guard either, and it's kind of a positionless league where anybody can bring the ball up, anybody can shoot the ball from anywhere on the floor. There's very few, if at all, post ups or elbow catches. It's just a different game right now, and it is something that you want to judge, and I try not to. You're kind of gonna anyway, but I try not to. I try not to enjoy it because it's just a different game right now. So I'm a big believer that everything comes back around, so that there will be some post action later in the future. Some guy will come in they'll say, "Hey, we should be doing some post-ups," and everybody will say, "Hey, that guy's a genius.
Right.
Hey, the post-ups are back in the game."
Bill, you got time for a few more questions?
Sure.
Great, great. You've been so generous of your time today, and I'm just loving this. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but what has been your favorite coaching experience you've had? You've coached NBA teams, you've coached in Mexico and Japan. What was your favorite coaching experience?
Well, I was really very fortunate because I was the head coach of the Chicago Bulls for a long time. For a long time, for 2 years. And that was a great experience to have that. We had a young team, and it's kind of like being able to play chess and try to figure out what's best and how you got to get these guys better, and then ultimately how you going to win. And so I had that experience, and then after that, assistant coach in Jersey and Phoenix, and then had that opportunity to go to Japan, which was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to be able to go there. And I took over a team that was 5-19, and we were able to turn them. We ended up winning 10 games in a row, which is pretty big. And just missed the playoffs. That was really disappointing, but just missed the playoffs. But it was just too far. I couldn't hang in Japan. And, came all the way back, and then I had this opportunity to go to Mexico to coach their national team. My advice: don't do that. So they were the exact opposite of the Japanese, who were amazing. That league, they're very everybody's pretty macho. So they want things their own way, just not cooperative, get stuff done. So just did not have that same experience. But the big thing is that I think that I was able to learn both, and when things were good and things were not so good. You could really learn a lesson of what's appropriate, what you should do, how to be successful. How basketball is really universal throughout the world. The things that work with us in the 90s will work now. There's just not a lot of people around to teach it anymore. All those great coaches that we used to have, fundamental coaches, those guys are all gone. So hopefully the few of us that are left will be able to make some kind of an impact on the guys that are playing now.
So, Bill, you like coaching in Japan a lot more than Mexico, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, just because the guys were phenomenal who were there, and the guys in Mexico were really unwilling to be there, really because of the establishment.
Interesting.
Those guys still want to play. They're just not happy with their management and what's going on. So you can imagine, I'm on the national team and nobody wants to play. We can't get guys to play. They're like, they'll come in for a couple of days, they're like injured, or they got to go back home, and they just don't want to play for that team.
Fascinating. But you found the Japanese players a lot more persistent, I guess. That's interesting.
No, I just think that they're really anxious to learn. They got a great situation. They got great practice facilities. Their management want them to do really well, and they really do a great job working together. So it's just a complete different situation as far as the management and the players.
I've been in Japan, and baseball is very big there. Could you see basketball becoming maybe the second biggest sport in Japan one day? Do you see it taking off there more?
No. the number one sport is sumo.
Super.
Uh, but baseball is right there with them. They love baseball, and they still have a different mentality about sports because everything they do it 1,000%. So if they're practicing baseball, it's all day. If they're practicing basketball, it's all day. And I don't think culturally they're not ready for that yet. Basketball is not a top 5 sport now, but the people who go to basketball games and they watch, they're crazy basketball fans. It's like a college atmosphere. It's the games are a lot of fun, a lot more fun than they go into our games. It's just a different mentality. And the baseball games are too. Going to a baseball game in Japan, it's 10 times more energy than any major league game you're going to go to. It's just so much fun.
I've heard that.
Yeah, it's great. So I really enjoyed my time there. Just being there and being there culturally and being there in the city and how safe it is. And of course, as you know, when you're there, transportation is a train. The train is dominant, but it's really safe. You can see a grammar school kid going to school by himself.
Right.
And they're perfectly safe. So it's a different culture, just different people, phenomenal people. I just really enjoyed my time there.
The food's delicious too. You know, Bill, you mentioned the dedication that a lot of these Japanese players had. I think of, although he's not a basketball player, a baseball player, I think of Ichiro Suzuki. My gosh, was that man dedicated to his craft? I mean, just so intense, Ichiro. You know, never. I mean, the practice and all that. So it's that's interesting. Well, what a lot of fun. I just love this hour. You've been so generous with your time. What is in the future for Bill Cartwright?
Well, you know what, this is the kind of weird thing for me is that I've never really looked for a job. I've kind of always had one. I kind of went to USF. That was kind of where I was kind of led to, and got drafted by the Knicks, got traded to the Bulls, had a best deal to go to Seattle, came all the way back, led back again to the Bulls. I got asked to go to Jersey. I got asked to go to Phoenix. I got asked to go to Japan and Mexico. Came all the way back, and then kind of ended up back at USF through some other coincidences. So, this is I'm always hoping for something really, really great, because I think that's what I got planned. I think that's what's planned for me, and I just want to be ready for it when it does happen, whatever it is.
Well, Bill, what a great chat. Learned so much talking to you about your career and basketball and so many subjects, and I really appreciate you coming on the Sports Untold podcast.
Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I've been really very fortunate. I'm pleased that you have me on. And by the way, I do have my own podcast.
Oh, great.
I don't know if Bill Hogan told you that, but it is the Bill Cartwright Show.
Love it.
And it's on YouTube, and I've had a lot of players on.
Great. I can't wait to listen to it. I didn't know you had your own podcast. Great.
Yeah, check it out. As a matter of fact, I have the great Bill Hogan on my show.
Great. I love it. Love it. I look forward to listening. I'm glad you mentioned that to my listeners. Well, great, Bill. All the best, and you and I stay in touch.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank Olivia too.
Absolutely. Olivia's doing a great job. You take care. Thanks, Bill.
Bye-bye.